Punksters, welcome to Inside SteamPunkery. My name is Michelle Cornwell-Jordan, and I'm your host. Well, Steam Heads, I'm very excited about this brand new web show. I plan to bring you authors, entertainers, makers, tinkerers, everyone that is in the punk genre. So I am so excited that tonight I'm having the opportunity to chat with AR DeClerck. She is also a steampunk science fiction, correct? Author, and we're going to chat regarding her books, how she found the steampunk path, and we're just going to have a great time. So again, guys, welcome to the show. AR, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Nice to see everybody. Nice to see you, Michelle.
It's nice seeing you. It's so different. We follow one another on Facebook, so I know everybody's little icons or avatars or whatever. So it's just weird when I see them.
Right.
All right. Well, AR or Amy, can you tell a little bit about yourself?
You
can call me. Okay. It's kind of hard when you have to call initially.
Well, my name's Amy DeClerck, and I'm a mother of 2 daughters. I live in the Quad Cities, Illinois, so right along the Mississippi River, and have a husband and 2 dogs. I work full-time as a dialysis technician during the day, and I write all my books at night or on my days off. And I currently have 6 novels published, and I write adventure romance. And my favorite genre is the steampunk genre. I have done fantasy and I have done some science fiction, but I really enjoy steampunk the most.
Very, very, very cool. All right, well, let's take it back a little bit. How did you find the writing path? Has it been something you've always wanted to do, or a newfound passion for you?
I've always been an avid reader, and so I always read voraciously any book I could get my hands on since I could read probably the 1st grade. And I really didn't get into writing until the 6th grade when I joined a poetry contest. And after that, it was kind of like the floodgates opened, and I just couldn't stop thinking about it. When I went to college, I went into the medical field, but writing was something that I always enjoyed doing. I kept a journal. And so when I started doing that, I actually started putting some snippets of writing on the internet, on Facebook and whatnot, and my mom would read them. And then she would bug me to post more.
Good mom.
And so finally, when I had it complete, she said, well, you need to see if you can get that published. So she really pushed me to get it out there and let other people read it. And then as soon as the first book was published, it just seemed like I was on the path.
Very, very cool.
I mean, that's kind of where it started for me. Yeah.
Look at that. So thanks, Mom.
Yep. Thanks, Mom.
Well, that's really, really cool. Well, before we get into the steampunk portion, I know Mom encouraged, but what was the choice that caused you to go more independent, or at first, versus big house, or did you? What was your path?
I had like most new authors, yes. I had a manuscript. I had a 3-book sci-fi romance series that I had written, and I wasn't very knowledgeable about certain aspects of writing. I was still pretty much a newbie, so I did shop it around to the big houses at first, and then I met some people online who were self-published, mm-hmm. and who, once you get that 1st and 2nd rejection letter, and you yes. start to get some, yes. Critiquing and things like that, then they said, it's very rare, especially for a first book and an unagented writer, mm-hmm. to really get in with the big houses. You should mm-hmm. really shop around and look maybe for a small print publisher. Yes. And so that's kind of what I did, and I did some research online, and that's how I ended up with my publisher, Nevermore Press. Okay. And actually, I'm very happy with that choice. I just don't have a lot of time to self-publish because it takes a lot of time that I don't have. Right. And they do the editing, they do the cover art, they do the formatting, and all those things that I just don't have time to do. So I think I chose the right path, but it did take a few mistakes and a few, learning exercises before I really figured out what the right way to go was.
Very, very cool.
And everybody hopes for the giant publishing contract. Everybody hopes for that at first.
Everybody wants it. I know.
Got to be a little more realistic.
Right. But you're right. I've spoken with many, many authors and my experience as well. But the advice is to look more at the small or mid-size, to get in, to build up, and like you said, that's the dream, the big houses. So,
right.
But either way, the fact that our stories are out there, that's what's important. And I do want to get a little bit more into that, the nuts and bolts, but let's go back. What drew you? You said that you write adventure stories. Now that's a little different. I haven't heard that term before. What do you, I know I've seen it online, so I have an inside view, but what do you mean by adventure stories?
So when I write adventure romance, my characters basically go through hell and back in order to finally come together at the end. So what drives me as an author is to put them in these unexpected, exciting situations that force them to come together, to work together, to see each other's flaws, the good things about each other, the bad things about each other. And hopefully at the end, through this culmination of all of these adventures that they've been on, they have the basis for a good relationship. So that's kind of where my adventure romance, it started. One of my favorite examples of adventure romance is the Mummy movies, because you have a hero, you have a heroine, they're together, they go through a long adventure, they suffer all of these terrible things that happen, and it brings them closer together in the end. So that's kind of the formula, I would say, that I use when I write my stories. In any genre that I write, my characters always, they're never boring, I suppose that's the best way to put it. They don't lead boring lives. They're always embroiled in some, big adventure that's supposed to keep the reader turning the page and always guessing. I like to keep them guessing till the very end.
Very, very cool. Well, I know that you write in different genres. I know it's science fiction, correct? Do you do a little dystopian, or what genres do you work? We're going to focus on steampunk, but what are the other genres?
I've written a fantasy series, so it's fantasy romance, and I have a couple of science fiction romance novels. They're more futuristic science fiction, as opposed to, say, like a dystopian science fiction. They're usually, the humans have branched out to other planets, in the universe, and those sort of things happen. And then I have, I tried one contemporary romance. It wasn't my favorite genre to write, but I thought, I'll give it a shot.
Yes.
That was okay. But steampunk's so far been my favorite. Definitely my favorite.
Yes. And I think that is so odd. People, I've noticed, and I'm sure there are folks that can overlap, but those that are in the more fantasy based, it's hard to go over to the contemporary. I don't know why, because, I like some, but it is hard for me to just write it or focus on it. Let's talk steampunk.
Okay, let's do it. How did you
find the steampunk path? Seriously. What drew you first?
Okay, so it's a mismatch of two of my favorite things, which would be Mary Poppins and Doctor Who. So I adore Mary Poppins, and I always have, and it's my favorite movie. And my husband got me into watching Doctor Who, and I thought, I would really love something that combines these two things, Victorian England and the, that time period where everyone's fresh and imaginative and so excited about science and the universe, but I also want the magic, and I want the excitement of anything could happen.
Yes.
That is the same for Doctor Who. So I actually picked up a book by Gail Carriger, which is the Parasol Protectorate series. And I was like, this seems interesting. And I started reading it, and I was just thrilled by the whole concept. And I started going to the library, and I would search on Amazon, I want more like this. I want more like this. And the more I got into the genre, the more I realized, it would just be magical to write something like this. So I thought, okay, I'm going to sit down and do it. I'm going to write something like this, and I thought, what have I been missing so far? Out of all the books I've read, what do I want to read? Right. And so that's what pushed me to do it. But I love the clothing. I love the like I said, the science, because I'm kind of a science nerd, so I like the idea that, you know, people had all these ideas and these fresh imagination, but I also like the idea of alternate history, so I could pretty much do anything I want and explain it with, oh, well, this didn't happen, so this happened. So I can play around with the way things were and change things around. So that's always fun for me too. Well, and that really just lit my imagination like a match. I just had to do it. I just had to write more.
It is. It
just can't stop once you get started.
I know, it's like you eat one potato chip, and you got to eat the whole bag. I don't know what it is about steampunk, but for
you're right. That's exactly what it is.
It is. You just eat a little bit because that looks cute. Next thing you know, you're really into it. Like my hat's
right. You have a Pinterest page with like 500 corsets on there.
I know, right? And you know which is.
Can't stop pinning them. That's what happens to me.
That's how it is with me and gowns and 1300.
Exactly.
But for those that may not know, what is steampunk? It's hard. I've heard that term so many times. And so I like to give each guest definition of what steampunk is to them. What is steampunk?
Right. When my readers ask me, what is steampunk? Or my family member asks me, what is steampunk? My usual answer is, I'll say, oh, it's an alternate history when the Industrial Revolution didn't happen and steam, rather than electricity, became the major source of fuel. Right. And then they'll say, oh, well, what does that mean? And I said, it pretty much means I can do whatever I want because nothing happened the way it did. I write what I want based on Victorian time period in that era, but anything is possible. Mm-hmm. And that's really the magic of steampunk, is that anything is possible. Authors and artisans have that full range of options of anything that they want to do, they can do. It's no limit to what, you can do when you get into it. So that's what's really cool about it too.
I agree with you. And I think, I can't remember the quote off the top of my head, but I've seen in many forms for steampunk, that is one thing that it's a community for everyone, for everyone. And like you said earlier, so many genres are mixed in. There's paranormal elements, there's science elements. You can mix in definitely romance and mystery, adventure.
Absolutely.
It is awesome. Okay, now there are the traditionalists, and there are ones that are a little bit more open, as far as their steampunk. Do you feel that it needs to be in a Victorian setting, or can it go out west? Or just for your writing, I'm speaking of your personal, what are you comfortable with?
Sorry, I think I lost you for a second.
That's okay.
Okay, there we are. We're back. Now, what was your question? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
That's all right. The question was, for you, I know there's traditionalists and those that are a little bit more, abstract about their steampunk. For your writing personally, are you more comfortable having it in the Victorian setting, or can you take your punkery to the West or circus or wherever?
Well, I absolutely think that punk could apply to any time period, and actually that kind of brings me to a novel that I've been working on. It's very difficult for me because it's a very sharp piece. It's really emotional, so it takes a lot more thinking for me, but it's actually set in the far future, and it does have elements of punk because the future has basically, they always say the past repeats itself.
Right.
So they have all of these elements of traditional steampunk, but the setting is in the far future. So I've toyed around with the idea, I have several thousand words written, but I do think that steampunk could be applied to any era. I've read a couple of novels, the Chronicle, I think it's the Legend Chronicles, and they were set in the Wild West. Steampunk, and it was paranormal steampunk, and they were fabulous novels. And like Romulus Buckle and the City of the Founders, that's a steampunk series, that seems to have taken place in the future or an alternate future at some point. So I really enjoy that idea that I actually would love to see like a Roaring Twenties punk.
Oh, I love diesel punk. I love Noir. Yes, love it.
Yes, it's just really a fabulous era. You get into, you know, the idea of World War I and World War II, and how could that era have been punked? What's an alternate timeline history events that could have happened? And I wrote a steampunk novella that takes place during the War of 1812. So, and it actually takes place, you know, it's basically an alternate timeline where the British won the Revolutionary War.
Very
so
cool.
Now the colonies are uprising again during what would have been the War of 1812. So I think it's absolutely applicable to any time period. There's no limit. It's all up to the author's imagination as to how they can really punk something out when it comes to writing steampunk. I think it's going to be amazing.
Yes.
I can't wait to see what other people are coming up with.
It is so, I think, so fun, and it's for history buffs, and like you said, it's just, it's an open field out there, and I love it. Now let's chat about your books. Tell us about your steampunk. Tell us about your book.
I just finished the second novel.
Yay!
But my first novel is called I just finished it, went off to the editor. The first novel is called The Alchemist's Kiss. Thank you. The Alchemist's Kiss takes place in 1860s in London, but it actually starts out right at the end of the Civil War in America. It's where the two main characters meet, is at Gettysburg, and follows them as a master-apprentice relationship back to London. And there has become, it's actually a magical steampunk. So magicians, wizards, alchemists, they use aether. And so when I was studying the book, I actually really became interested in Nikola Tesla and his ideas of aether and the electrical dream that he had. And so I started studying him, and I used his principles when I was talking about the magical system.
I think I lost you a little bit. Are you still there, Amy? All right, guys. Amy will be back. We're just having a little bit of tech issues. Don't you just love it? I tell you. But as Amy was saying, I just think that the punk field is just wide open for anyone that has an interest in history, in science, in all of those genres. It can be mixed in into one whole, and I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. It's just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing. I lost her, and I'm believing she will be back. And so we're just going to wait for Amy to get back, to come back in. And the thing is, I can't play music out. So that's fun. That's okay. But as for those that are wondering, there are several types of different punks. You've heard us mention different punks. And what we mean by punk, that is that tweaking, making something a little different, giving it an alternate version. It's whether it's, an alternate timeline, or an instrument, or some type of invention that is modern but would be back in a historic setting. That is what we meant by punk. There's diesel punk, there's steampunk, there's so many different types. So and they're all fun, so fun to work with. I'm going to see if I can find her and get Amy, back here with us. And anyway, so guys, I would love to hear from you about your idea of what steampunk is. I'm sorry, I'm here. Yes, you're seeing me on my little phone and touching base with our guest. And that's the thing. I'm also a radio host, guys, and it's so much easier on the radio when you could just play a song. But I'm not with TV. I mean, not with video, but that's okay. I am seeing if I can get in touch with her now and see if we can get her back. Send her a message now. And see what's happening. And see what is going on. If not, I will make sure that Amy's information is listed so that you are able to touch base and grab copies of her book. I really wanted to hear a little bit more about her books, and because they sound so interesting. And if you haven't checked out her covers or whatnot, you really need to go online and check them out. They're awesome. I'm looking forward to reading The Alchemist's Kiss and finding out more. So anyway, guys, I would really love to hear what your thoughts are as far as steampunk. This will be posted on the blog. You can always, in comments, follow up or touch base with me on Facebook. And it's under Michelle Cornwell-Jordan, and say, hey, I saw that video, and please, I would love to chat with you, especially about steampunk. So that is awesome. Well, I'm still waiting for Amy to see if she can get back. And if not, what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. But I will make sure to list her links and all of her web pages where you can touch base and find out more about her books. It doesn't seem that she's going to be able to come back. I'm going to send her one more message and we'll see. Yay! We're back.
I had to switch to my phone. Sorry about that.
That is okay. That is okay. They're keeping it going here.
That's okay. We can get right back to where we were.
Well, that's right, guys. That's right. Just keep on flowing. But we were chatting about your books, and you were telling us about The Alchemist's Kiss, and you know what it is about, and then also where the idea originated.
Well, The Alchemist's Kiss is probably, like you heard before, if I didn't get stopped by the internet. But The Alchemist's Kiss is a magical steampunk, takes place in the 1860s in London, at the time when the people who are lacking magical abilities have begun to revolt, because they're mostly poor, the working class, and they now have access to science. Mm-hmm. So they would rather use science as opposed to paying wizards to do the work. So we come to the point where Icarus Kane, has to save London from a threat that has arrived right at the same time that he's also coming upon all of these unhappy working class people. So it's a very almost dystopian look at the difference between the haves and the have-nots in London in the 1860s. So it's very adventurous, and it actually is a bit of a different romance because the two main characters have been together in a working relationship for a few years. They've only just now come to realize that they love each other. Oh, so It's got a little bit of background for those characters. They know each other quite well. They know each other's flaws, and so it actually makes for really good commentary between the two of them from time to time.
Oh,
and
cool.
Yeah, the idea actually came from the names of two of the main characters. One day I was just thinking about character names. I don't know why, but Icarus Kane and Archimedes Merriweather are the two main male characters, and I thought, these guys are best friends. They absolutely live in Victorian times, and they're both wizards. Like, I just knew it automatically. And so I thought, what can I write about a guy named Icarus Kane and his best friend named Archimedes Merriweather? And the other thing that I knew is that Archimedes has some clockwork parts.
Oh.
So I thought, and then the ideas just kind of flowed from there, and that's where the Alchemist's Kiss came from. So that's a fun little story I like to tell people, because it was just started with two names, and then immediately their characters kind of molded themselves after that.
Where did you get such unique names?
I really have no idea. One day I was just writing down some character names, and I thought of Icarus because actually I was thinking about mythology.
Right.
And Archimedes, I was thinking about a person who had clockwork parts, and I was thinking about science, and the name was pretty obvious at that point. But then once The Alchemist's Kiss was finished, I realized that Archimedes' story was not complete. So that's where the book that I just finished, The Enchanter's Embrace, actually came to pass. Icarus and Cora, the two main characters from the first book, have gone off, and it leaves Archimedes with his love interest to save the day in the second story. So readers won't be disappointed. The characters that they love will all be wrapped up and don't have any loose ends hanging, and everyone will know that Archimedes gets his happy ending.
Yeah.
In the end, I didn't want anybody to think that he got left out, because he was the beloved secondary character, but he provided a lot of the level-headed advice to Icarus and Cora, especially when it came to understanding the opposite sex, and that sometimes anger meant she likes you, and sometimes when he's pulling away, it's not because of you, it's because of him, and all of those like really intricate things that they're just a little bit too blind to see. So I was really happy that he got his happy ending in the end, because he really deserved it. So hopefully readers will get to see Enchanter's Embrace at the end of April.
Yeah.
So everyone who liked Alchemist's Kiss will get to follow along in the same world with many of the same characters and a lot of the same rip-roaring adventure that we had in the Alchemist's Kiss. So kind of hopeful that goes. And then as far as steampunk goes, I do have a steampunk novella called The Clockwork Countenance.
Okay.
And it's part of the Infinite Possibilities box set. And we created one main character and gave her infinite lives on many alternate parallel worlds. And so my character happened to be alive during the war, sort of 1812, and she is a proper British lady who happens to be in love with a man who is a steam mechanized robot who has developed emotions and AI. So she has decided that she will do anything that she has to do in order to procure him a human body. And she's heard that an inventor from America created something called the Clockwork Countenance, where he could transfer an AI into a human body. So that's the point of the story, is she's searching for this specific thing that will help her transfer her lover into a human body. And we meet Nikola Tesla, and she has some very fun allies. She's allied to the Chinese, who have an opium den that she happens to visit a couple of times, and they have a gang. And so it's a really fun adventure. She's a pretty strong character. I really enjoyed writing her. Tesla was fun to research. He's a very interesting character in and of himself. So hopefully readers will enjoy that too. It was a fun thing to write, for sure.
Wow. It's just fascinating, these ideas that you come up with. What is your writing process? Meaning, do you find the time period first or whatever you're going to tweak and then write the story around it? Or how do you
I would call myself a character writer.
Okay.
So all of my stories start with a central character.
Okay.
And then the story is built around that character based on what I think that character is going to need for the story. So, like in The Alchemist's Kiss, it started with Icarus and Archimedes, and I knew that they were best friends, but I also knew that there had to be a love interest. And so then it just kind of steamrolled from there into what could I do to bring these characters to life, to, you know, give my readers an interesting read and give them the adventure that I love to read, and make sure that everybody kind of has that whole story process. So my process usually starts with a character, and I try to flesh them out, make them as 3D as possible, as real as I can for my readers, and I give them lots of flaws, lots of little idiosyncrasies that you know, it may not make them lovable, but it makes them real. And I'm a huge fan of always trying to show the realistic side of the person and say, you know, he's not 6 foot tall with perfect abs and, you know, all of these things, or he may be beautiful on the outside, but he can be a real, you know, monster sometimes when his ego gets going. You know, all of these people have their flaws and the things that I think make them lovable as characters. And the story is mostly a backdrop to, you know, loving the characters and wanting them to be happy and finding their, you know, their happy ending at the end. So yeah, my process really starts like that.
How long does it take you to complete a novel?
If I can write on my regular schedule, it will take me about 6 weeks. If I get distracted or I have to take time off because my day job work schedule gets crazy, it might take me as much as 8 weeks. But usually for about 80,000 words takes me about 6 weeks.
That's incredible. You can do 80,000 words in 6 weeks? So
usually.
How many?
If I can read every night.
Okay, so do you work in the evenings or in the mornings? How do you do this?
I have to be at my day job at 5:30 in the morning, so I definitely don't write in the morning. So usually I come home after work and I try to get in after dinner. I usually write from after dinner to bedtime. And if I am on a roll and I don't get distracted, usually I can get in anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 words, as long as I don't get distracted. Facebook is a distractor for me, and a lot of times I will take a week or so break sometimes if the story isn't going quite the way I want it, or if I'm kind of stumped on what comes next. But yeah, usually if I can stay on my schedule, I can get it done in about 6 weeks.
Oh my gosh, I'm here trying, planning 90 days just to get 85,000 words. You're like, I can do this. I have so much respect. Okay, so your covers, awesome. They're gorgeous.
Thank you.
Do you? Who was your designer? How did you get your team together? Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. You're through your publishers. Right. They do that.
Right. The cover designer, her name is Rachel Olson, and she is No Sweat Graphics, and she is published through my publisher, and she works with them to help us do our covers, and she is amazing. She is amazing. Yeah. I purchased the photo for The Alchemist's Kiss from periodimages.com. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I saw the couple in the photo, I knew immediately that would be perfect. And so I said, I bought this photo, as a stock image. Can you make this the cover? And she said, yes, I can do it. So she sent me a message a few days later. She said, I think this is the best cover I've ever done. I said, I'm so excited. I want to see it. And when she sent it to me, it was spot on perfect.
It is. It's gorgeous, perfect. Guys. We're not just saying that. All your covers are gorgeous. But yes, I love your steampunk. Back to your writing, really, really quick. I meant to ask you the gizmos and the gadgets. I think that is one of the more challenging aspects of writing it.
Absolutely.
How do you come up with or find your gadgets and get gizmos?
In The Alchemist's Kiss, one of the main gizmos they use is called a dielectric. And basically, when I was studying Nikola Tesla, I had to figure out a way for someone without a magical ability to suppress aether. So I'm studying aether, I'm studying what Tesla thought about aether, and he said, if you use an electromagnetic field on a certain resonance, then, you can suppress aether. I thought, oh, okay, I can figure this out. So did a little more research, and my bad guys, are using this electrical device. It looks like an orb, and it puts out a certain resonance frequency that depresses the aether, and so the wizards can't use their magic. So I thought, okay, this is pretty awesome. And then they had, of course, you can't have a traditional steampunk without a few, steam bots and steam mechs.
Yeah.
I had a couple of those running around, but I think you're right. Gadgets and gizmos are one of the hardest things. In the Enchanter's Embrace. I had a person who is not magical. He is very much mired in the science of the time, and one of my main characters had gone missing. And he says, "Oh no!" He's like, "Your magic isn't going to work." He's like, "We have to use science." So I brought out some forensic tools that I steampunked up a little bit, and so he had, like a electromagnetic, like a chromatograph that will take, something and tell you what the parts are. He had one of those, and his weapon was like a bow staff.
Wow.
And it was electrified, So I had to come up with all these ideas, but I thought, this person has access to all these ideas that the Victorian people had about how the universe worked and how the world worked and how electricity worked and how all these things worked. And I thought, how can I incorporate that into the story and make it a little cooler? And it was a lot of fun, but it is one of the more challenging parts of writing steampunk, is coming up with and to say, this gadget does this, and then say, how can I back that up and make sure that makes sense to anybody who's reading it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of the hard part, is tweaking it just enough to make it realistic. Even when you really want that halogen pistol, to work, but you're like, how can I make that work? So
I love it. Do you do the festivals and the cons? Do you do any cosplay? Do you have one of the alternate Steam personalities, or you haven't gone that route?
I have not gone that route. I wish I was brave enough to go that route, actually. One of my friends wanted to do steampunk for Halloween this year and go to a costume party. And actually, I was so proud of myself because my book was the first one she'd ever read that was steampunk.
How
and
cool.
She really enjoyed it. And she said, oh, this is just such a fun thing. I want to dress up. I want to do this. And I thought, okay, so I've gotten someone else into this, and I told her, I said, it's very addictive. Once you get started, it's really hard to stop.
It is.
And everything you see, and the more you see how inventive people are in their costumes and everything they're wearing and everything they're doing at the cons and the festivals, it makes you really want to go and participate. But so far, I haven't done it. But I would like to eventually. I get a little bit farther along into the genre. I would love to. And I always enjoy on Facebook and things when I see photos and everything of people who've gone to the conventions and the festivals and everything. They're pretty amazing.
They are. They're awesome. So you believe that this will be one of your main genres for a while to write in, correct?
Absolutely. I think that as much as I love adventure romance as an umbrella term, I really think my focus will be on science fiction romance and steampunk, probably from here on out.
Yeah.
Once I finish my fantasy series, I just have one book left. I will probably stick to steampunk and sci-fi, simply because I have so many ideas of things that I want to write and so much I want to do.
Yes.
And I really can't wait just to explore and get more into it. So I'm not going to have a lot of time to do anything else because I'm going to be so busy exploring all these things that are so open, so many opportunities. to see what's out there and see what's next. So yeah, definitely think I'll be sticking with steampunk for a while.
Very, very cool. Well, I have enjoyed having you on the show. Thank you so much for being here. How can everyone that is out there touch base with you, grab copies of your books?
All my books are available right now via Kindle and Kindle Unlimited. So if you have a Kindle Unlimited account, you can find me on Facebook at author Amy DeClerck, and you can find me on Twitter at AR DeClerck. And pretty much I am on Facebook a lot. I'm involved in tons of different stuff, and I have a fan page, the Fabulous Fans of AR DeClerck. So anytime anybody wants to touch base with me, I enjoy discussing books. Not even my own books, any books, steampunk especially, I love, and I just can't wait to be more involved with readers and get to know them and what they like, and I can't wait to hear what they think about The Alchemist's Kiss.
Oh, awesome. Very cool. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. And thank you for, I know that's a little bit uncomfortable with the phone, but thank you so much for hanging out.
Thanks, Michelle.
And I would like everyone to know that Amy will join us on Indie Review Behind the Scenes Internet Radio in March. So we're very, very excited. Myself and my co-hosts are very excited to chat with Amy. So make sure you check that out as well. All right, guys, everyone that has joined us, thank you so much. I hope that you will go and connect with Amy and show her some love, grab copies of her books, and see you next time, guys, on Inside SteamPunkery. Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.